goodbye to our annual Swift Campout solstice ride, which is also usually our shakeout ride for the big trip.
So this ride has become a tradition for us, pretty much, riding out to Garrettsville and camping in the woods. Me and Aaron took off from my photography studio and headed downtown Akron to meet Ben when he would be getting off work at Dirty River Bicycle Works. Ames and Brad were meeting us there as well. It was just this crew this year, and then we were heading out onto the Freedom Trail, then up through Kent, then Lake Rockwell. There's a number of different ways to get out there on these country roads that are kind of grid-like. This year, we decided to do the Lake Rockwell route, and it's a really cool route. There's some good hills, some fast descents, a little bit of climbing after we get off the bike path. Came back a different way. The forecast for the week was threatening rain weekend the whole time. We got fairly lucky, as you'll see, a little bit of rain here and there, but nothing too bad. A number of years ago, we actually got rained on and stormed on so bad that we had to bail the next day and get a ride. But nothing quite that bad this year, even though the forecast looked like it could have been that bad. As Aaron mentioned, we use this as a shakedown ride because depending on when 4th of July falls, this is usually about a week before we take our big vacation for the summer, our bike packing, bike touring trip that's usually about a week long. As I've mentioned in other videos, this year we are heading to the Finger Lakes, one long day across the Erie Canal Trail, and then dropping down through Ithaca, Watkins Glen, and a number of the lakes and climbing and all around there. This is the first year where I'm pretty much using the same setup that I used last year. So for me, I already know the bag situation works well and how I'm going to pack it. I usually overpack a little bit for this trip to get a feel for everything. I didn't have to do this time because of that reason. The only thing for me was I have had the Gunnar at Dirty River torn down and rebuilt with cables and housings and all that. So to me, it was just making sure everything was good and kind of bedded in and stuff like that. But the nice thing that I kind of forgot about is how bad my bike had gotten. I knew how rough I had been on it last fall, nutmeg and higher ground. It had gotten soaked, it had been underwater, some winter riding, all that kind of thing. But you kind of forget as things slowly get worse how bad they really have become. So I was joking that my thumbs have gotten really strong because it became so hard to shift. But when I got on the bike after it had the new cables and housings that Ben put on there at the bike shop, it's shifting like butter, and I forgot that that's how it's supposed to be, as it just, slowly got worse over time. Plus, it's a little bit of a, Frankenstein bike build. It's not a complete group set or anything. So I guess in my mind, as it slowly got worse, I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't like my Raleigh with its full Shimano group set that all goes together and shifts really nice and modern. But no, I was wrong. This bike does shift really nice. It's just, Ben said there was water in the housings. They were really rusty. So I knew it was time. I wanted to get it done a while ago and just didn't get around to it. It's also noticeable in the brakes, and I did get new brake levers put on. Pudgy sent me a set of Sora levers. The levers I was using worked fine, but they were really, really cheap, and there was just some play in them. Paint was wearing off. So yeah, switched them out. The Shimano levers are a little longer too, so they're ergonomically a little more comfortable. But also the brakes just, feel way more, I could feel way more modulation, and again, the levers are easier to pull now. I run those Grotech Equal brakes. I have them on this bike and the Rally, and I absolutely love them. Velo Orange sells these brakes. They're not cheap, but they're not as expensive as clampers, and they come with housings and cables and stuff like that. I highly recommend them if you want the best performance mechanical disc brakes you can get, or almost on the level of clampers for a little less. I think they're awesome. I really think they look cool too. You get them in different anodized colors. They just have kind of a unique look. One thing I was thinking about testing out was putting fenders onto the Gunnar. I have fenders here that would fit it that Otis gave me when he built up the bike for me. I didn't have the time to get them on, and now I need to look at the forecast. I'm recording this on Thursday. We're leaving on Saturday morning, and see if there is rain in the forecast, because it would be nice to have fenders. We're only doing a little bit of off-road, as around the Watkins Glen area we're doing bikepacking.com's overnighter route, and I think it's mostly gravel though, so I don't think I have to worry about picking up sticks and the things that can make fenders kind of annoying. I don't think it would be really muddy or anything like that, but I'm not sure if I'm going to attempt to get them on there or not. They sure would be nice, but I don't know if I'm going to even run out of time to fidget with them, even if there isn't the rain in the forecast. If you're wondering why it looks this kind of lighting, we didn't leave the bike shop until a little after 4 o'clock. That's when they close on Saturdays. So it's a later start, but the ride is not crazy far. It's 30-some miles. I think maybe I ended up getting 35 out there, if I remember correctly. As always, the Strava of this ride will be linked in the description below. I don't know what's taking them so long with this road. It's closed right now, which is great, but it seems like it's been under construction forever. As you can see to the left, they're putting in this huge trucking commerce center. I thought it was going to be an Amazon, but it's not. And then the turnpike is off on the other side, so it makes sense that it's there. The big bummer to us is that was a real rural country gravel road for a long time. So yeah, we lost the gravel, and like I said, now it's fine because it's closed, but I imagine that it's going to be full of truck traffic eventually and a little less pleasant of a cut-through road. Looking at this footage of the ripping descent here reminds me of another thing I've just decided I might try this week. As you can see, I have some sandals just strapped with the Infinity tools to the top of that bike rack. My tent poles go into the Junior Ranger small pannier bag I have at an angle, and I could get it turned a couple times to close it up and seal it, but I don't really have it's kind of a little awkward, and I'm not really crazy about that setup. So I'm thinking maybe I just strap those to the front of the rack or maybe into the triangle. When I take the rally, the triangle is big enough that they actually fit in a frame bag I have, but I haven't really like the solution that I use on this bike yet. So maybe instead of trying to awkwardly put them in the pannier, I do just strap them somewhere on the bike. Right here is where we're breaking off the Headwaters trail that we were on. That was like a gravel, it looks like the towpath a lot, and heading into the property that we're camping on. So a big old farm property that's been divided a little bit into a number of houses and rented farmland. It's a really cool property with woods and farm fields, a creek, waterfalls, and all that, but don't go coming back here. It is private property, and you will get in trouble. We headed back to our spot and we got our camp set up. We weren't entirely sure what we were going to do with this evening. The last number of years, our trip is lined up with Summerfest in Garrettsville. So we've gone into town where they have all the fair rides and food and music and watched the bands and gone to the brewery down there. This year that wasn't going on and we weren't sure what to do, but there was also a pool on the property now, so we were thinking about going swimming. What we decided to do was get camp all set up and then just ride to the gas station on the edge of town, pick up some snacks and drinks and come back and go for a after dark swim, which was pretty good because it was super hot. So getting rinsed off before sleeping and getting to a tent is always really nice if you can. You know, climbing into a sticky tent on a night where I think the temperature wasn't even gonna drop, below high 70s all night. I'm going to come back to that gas station and a story that happened there in a minute. It was a little strange, and it's worth talking about after we show this next little bit here. This is us getting ready to go for the night swim and all that. We got back, had a fire and everything. I didn't turn on any of the cameras for some reason. I kind of forgot. When we woke up in the morning, we were getting weather alerts that it was going to get bad, and we're trying to decide what we should do. There are some shelters on the property, but Ames had suggested that, there's a coffee shop downtown. So it showed about 45 minutes till the bad weather was going to hit. So I jumped up half asleep and just started packing up as quick as I could, and so did everybody else. Me and Aaron finished first, and we just decided to hit the road and get there. Ben had some things he was going to help his parents out with really quick, so they met us. As we were going down the Headwaters trail, we actually did start to get some drizzle, but it wasn't too bad. By the time we got into Garrettsville, it did start pouring, but what looked like it was going to be this giant storm front that was going to be thunder and lightning and potentially a few hours of rain really passed pretty quick. So by the time me and Aaron had some coffee and breakfast and everybody else joined us, the whole thing had passed and we were, decided to head back out on the road. We originally had a plan for this day to go to a different swimming hole, Nelson's Ledges, and we were going to go out there. Some friends were going to meet us, but with the iffy weather all day, we just kind of changed our mind. It just looked like it would still be threatening all day. Here it is where I told you it was pouring for the 1 minute. We locked our bikes underneath that little overhang and walked over to the coffee shop. But yeah, with that whole thing, it being iffy, we decided let's just nix that for this year and head home, which, was a fine decision. I had things to do. As mentioned, we did take a different route home. We even took a different one than we had planned because instead of breaking off on the Headwaters trail at the end of town, we decided to skip it. That can get pretty swampy pretty quick. If you've ever seen my Road Apple Roubaix videos, that's where the ride ends. Coming to town at the end of town we're heading to now off that trail. And it's pretty, it's just really sloppy. No one wanted to get their stuff all dirty if we didn't have to, especially, a week before we'd be leaving on our trip. But this route worked out great anyways. They're still chill country roads, so it was no big issues. As I mentioned, back to the gas station, it was kind of interesting. When we pulled up there were some kids. They seemed like they were kind of partying a little bit. They were sitting in their car with the doors open, and they were just commenting on everybody who passed by, whatever, no big deal, just being kids, just being young kids, being weird. But we're standing there. Brad's drinking a big gulp. I'm eating I bought some really weird Doritos that actually stained my hands for like 2 days. But a police officer walks over and he's looking at us, and I feel like he's going to check out our bikes, like a bike cop, maybe, or just maybe he's a recreational cyclist too. And then he tells us that he got some phone calls about people drinking in the parking lot. And we're like, okay. Like, almost like, yeah, what does that have to do with us? And he's like, are you guys drinking? And we're like, no. And then Aaron mentions that, hey, there were some kids here. The call was probably about them. And he's still looking at me. And I'm like, I bought some beers. And he's like, can I see them? And so I'm like, okay. So I open up my bag, and there's 2 beers in there, that I was taking back to the campfire. It was really strange. And then he looks at Brad. Like I said, Brad's holding a big gulp. He looks at Ben. No one is, we're not standing there drinking. I'm 45 years old. I don't need to drink in the parking lot. Anyways, I guess him and his partner actually looked as confused as we did, but he finally asked for my ID, and I kind of wish I didn't give it to him. I mean, when it comes down to it, I don't mind being cooperative. Like you say, you're not doing anything wrong. You can't get in trouble. But at the same time, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I'm a 45-year-old who bought some beers. You don't need to see my ID. You don't need to call it in. I haven't done anything. So whatever, I was cooperative. But looking back, I think I would have said no. No, I didn't do anything. You don't need to see my ID. This is not a police state. Anyways, I don't know. Let me know what your opinion is. Like I said, I don't mind. I don't want to cause trouble. I don't mind being cooperative. But at the same time, I just wasn't doing anything wrong. So on the way back, we took the Portage County hike and bike trail much farther out from the Ravenna area back home. This is this weird bridge that kind of connects the 2 sections of the trail you have to go over. But yeah, so smoother, flatter riding towards the end of the trip. We decided not to stop in Kent. Sometimes we'll stop for, a lunch or a breakfast. Again, the sky looked threatening again, and it was just one of those trips where we decided, let's get home, This little alleyway has been in my videos a bunch, but it hasn't been for a long time. That big mill up there had a part of it burned down, shooting flames hundreds of feet into the air a few years ago. So this little section had been closed for a long time. So one of the first times I've ridden it in a while. And then here we are, downtown Kent. It's really cool. They closed that street off in the summer so people could sit outside. There's a Dora, which you're allowed to get a beverage and bring it out there and drink. We've talked about doing a Friday night ride, like a channel meetup. It wouldn't be something worth coming into town for, but for anyone who's local, I'll put that out there. I'm just not worrying about that stuff till I get back from vacation and planning dates. I've had a couple things come up with work and all that, so I don't want to put something out there and then have to cancel it. Anyways, Ben broke off there because he was going to head down the Freedom Trail. Me, Aaron, Ames, and Brad, we being, decide to cut over to the Summit County hike and bike because this takes us more directly back to Cuyahoga Falls. On the bike setup thing, it's funny. Ames said the good thing about this shakedown ride is that she learned that she needs to change everything. So, and then Ben was heading to the shop to make a couple adjustments. He said, well, they were fresh on his mind. So I think we'll talk about that kind of stuff in the actual trip video. Like I said, I'm hoping to do some breakdowns with what everyone has on their bike, how they packed it, the bags they use, the tents they use, all that kind of thing. Right here is where we turned to head towards where the studio is, and Brad and Ames went on. We both live in the Falls, but kind of on opposite edges. So another great Swift Campout, quick solstice overnighter. I do have some videos uploaded, so there'll still be content while we're in the Finger Lakes next week. Follow along with that trip over on Instagram and in the Discord. And there won't be no live streams, obviously, the week of 4th of July, 2024, because we'll be gone. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.